Israeli society is obsessed with children. In this video, I'm going to be showing you an Israeli city where the average number of children per woman is 7.2 children. I will then touch on the political, historical, and religious aspects behind this high number. The data is very clear. Israel is the country with the highest number of children per woman among the OECD countries, and it is way out in front. In Israel, the average is 3.1 children per woman, and the average in the OECD countries is 1.6. There is a social pressure felt especially by women to marry and have children. Israel is also a fertility empire. Men and women who experience problems having children will go a long way to make it happen. Israel, by the way, is the only country in the world that subsidizes fertility treatments for women over 45. There are many different ways of telling this very sensitive, interesting, and political story. Let's start with the one Israelis like to hear. There is a popular saying in Hebrew, Yeladim ze simcha, children are joy. In Israel, family members enjoy much closer tie with each other than they do in most Western countries. You talk more often to your family and you see them a lot more. Some will see their families every Friday evening, and very often Israelis don't live too far away from their parents. If you travel to Israel with children, you will notice that Israel is very pro-children. It is much easier for you as a foreigner to start talking to Israelis if you have children. There are very few hotels and hostels that don't allow children in. As an Israeli, I never really questioned this family model. First, you get married and then you have children. This is what happened to me, my brothers, and all of my friends, until I moved to Berlin. Over there, many of our friends had only one child or no children at all, and often the parents weren't married. Who knew that such things were possible? In Israel, I don't know anyone who doesn't have any siblings, literally zero. And the interesting thing is that in Berlin, you get so many benefits for having children. When I guided Israelis in Berlin, I told them that Angela Merkel basically says to German women, have kids, we will take care of everything. They are entitled to maternity leave of 12 months. In Israel, it is 3 months. Free education from age 0 to postdoctorate level. In Israel, we spend a lot of money on kindergarten and university, and 200 euros a month per child. In Israel, it's about $50. And still, the average number of children per woman in Germany is really low, 1.5 children per woman. I remember a time when I was still guiding there, I think it was in 2018, where the heads of states of Germany, France, Great Britain, and Italy, so Angela Merkel, Emmanuel Macron, Theresa May, and the Italian guy, didn't have any children. In Israel, there has never been a prime minister or president that didn't have children. Now, from my own personal Israeli perspective, and I say this as a nobody with a YouTube channel, a society that is shrinking because it is producing too few children is a very sad thing. It demonstrates that within society there exists a deep fear about the future. I have many friends in Berlin who don't have children and have full and meaningful lives. But in general, a society that chooses not to have children is a dying society. It's simple math. Now, you might be saying, but what about the environment? Planet Earth is suffering from overpopulation. If that's what you're thinking, then you're probably from Western Europe. The Jews see themselves as an endangered species. There are 2 billion Christians, 1.5 billion Muslims, 1 billion Chinese, and 1 billion Indians. As far as the environment is concerned, it is totally irrelevant whether there are 15 million Jews, which is the number of Jews in the world today, or 20 million Jews. Not only are we a teeny tiny minority, but people want to wipe us out. Yesterday it was the Germans, and today it is the official policy of Iran. And yes, the Holocaust has a lot to do with it. I want to show you an article in a leading Israeli newspaper, and the headline reads, Demography, Politics, Sociology, Religion, Economy, and even the Holocaust. There are many reasons for the Israeli fertility obsession. And another headline about the birth rate in Israel reads, on the 74th Independence Day, 77 years after the Holocaust, in which 6 million Jews were exterminated, we are winning every day anew. Golda Meir, the Israeli prime minister in the 70s, once said that every Jew who marries a non-Jew is like another one joining the 6 million. You should have children, and the children should be Jewish. But it is not only the Holocaust. There is something else that goes way back into Jewish history. A major difference between Jews and Christians is that in Christian countries, those who wanted to dedicate their lives to Jesus went to live in monasteries and didn't have children. So there is the separation between the regular normal life, those with families and children, and those who withdrew from that life to serve God in solitude. In Judaism, it was the other way around. It was the rabbis, the leaders, who had lots of children. So serving God and having a big family are strongly linked in Judaism. Another interesting thought, and it is my thought, so of course I find that interesting, is that the biggest debate in the US concerning children is whether you are pro-abortion or anti-abortion. In Israel, the debate is about whether to have 3 children or 6 children. Ultra-Orthodox Jews have on average 6 children, whereas non-Orthodox Jews have 3. This is changing the politics and future of Israel. It is only a matter of time until ultra-Orthodox Jews become the majority. On my channel, I like to talk about Israeli society, but it is primarily a travel channel. So now I'm going to go to a city in Israel that I never visited before, called Modi'in Illit, which is the city with the most children per woman in Israel, 7.2 children. Once there, I'm going to talk about how the high birth rate is changing the face of Israel society and how it is changing it extremely quickly. Modi'in Illit is a very new city. It was established in 1990, and today it counts around 90,000 inhabitants. The average salary is very low, about half of the national average, and so it is a very poor city. The number of high school graduates is less than 10%. Now, let me connect the dots for all those viewers who don't know much about Israeli or Jewish society. So why are the ultra-Orthodox so poor? Why don't they get their high school diplomas? And what will happen in the future? In the ultra-Orthodox world, the highest virtue or merit that parents want for their kids, or more specifically for their boys, is that they study the Jewish books. Judaism is a religion based on rules and books. In Orthodox school, they don't study math, or not a lot of math. They don't study science and English. They study the Jewish books. After the Bible itself, the best-known Jewish books are the Mishnah and the Talmud. And yes, the State of Israel allows it. There is not one single education system for all children in Israel. There is a separate one for secular Jews, one for national religious Jews, the ones who wear yarmulke and regular clothes, and one for the ultra-Orthodox, the one who wear black suits. How can they join the workforce if they have never studied? They can't. Half of ultra-Orthodox men don't work. They sit and study the Jewish books. So how do they support their families? They don't. They are very poor, and the women are the ones who go to work, and they get subsidized from the government. How come a small group like the ultra-Orthodox, who make up about 15% of Jewish society, has so much political power? To understand this, you need to understand Israel's political system. In the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, there are the left-wing parties, the right-wing parties, the Arab parties, and the ultra-Orthodox parties. To form a coalition, a majority in the Knesset, both the left and the right need ultra-Orthodox parties to be able to form a majority. So that is how they enjoy so much political power. This is the problem with a multi-party system. The small parties are able to extort the big parties. Now, why am I talking about ultra-Orthodox Jews in a video about children? To paraphrase the Bill Clinton campaign slogan, in Israel, it's the demography stupid. The two groups that are producing the most children are the ultra-Orthodox Jews and the Arabs. Both groups are non-Zionist and are not big fans of democracy. Human rights issues and freedom of speech are not held in high esteem, and both groups are also poor. Now, as with all sensitive topics, some will disagree with me. Some will say that 50% of Orthodox Jews do work and that some do go to university. And of course, that is true. But the big picture is what we are talking about here. 100% of the poorest cities in Israel are inhabited by ultra-Orthodox Jews and Arabs. The only reason there are good hospitals in Jerusalem and the streets are clean of rubbish is that people in Tel Aviv, which is secular and rich, are paying taxes that go to Jerusalem. Secular Israelis pay about 5 times more tax than the ultra-Orthodox Jews. And once the number of people who don't pay tax or pay very little tax rises, then the burden on those who are paying will get to be too much, meaning they will end up leaving Israel and Israel will become poor. Now, if you are saying, Oren, which is my name by the way, you are exaggerating, then let me take it one step further. Let me put it in a historical context and make it much more dramatic. The State of Israel is the third Jewish independent state in the land of Israel. The first one was established 3,000 years ago by King David and lasted for 70 years until the kingdom split up. The second was established 2,200 years ago by the Hashmonaim dynasty and lasted about 75 years. Both of these Jewish kingdoms fell not because of an outside enemy, but because of wars between the Jews. The biggest threat to the modern state of Israel, as I and many maybe even most Israelis see it, is not Iran or the Palestinians. It is the changing demography. Israel is going through a process of Jerusalemization and Rabbinization. And yes, I've just invented 2 words. Let me explain. A larger part of Israel will become like Jerusalem, that is poor and divided between many religious groups. And rabbis will have more say in public life in Israel. Am I optimistic about the future of Israel? No, not really. Okay, we've made it to the end. Now, if you've made it this far, you basically have to subscribe or write a long comment about how I got everything wrong. Short, nice comments are also allowed. Yalla bye. And give this video a like.